What's up, my friends? It's Rob Bill, the Holistic Renegade here, and thank you for joining me for Holistic Strength Men's Yoga number 2. Today we're going to practice some Hatha Yoga in the Men's Yoga Transformation language. This is activation and alignment yoga. You're going to experience some muscular activation, some skeletal alignment, maybe work out some aches and pains and weird little things you might be experiencing. In the yoga language, the word hatha means forceful, and though it may look a little bit easier than the fancy, crazy stuff that you see online and in yoga classes, this is really some hardcore yoga, so you're going to enjoy this. We're going to experiment and learn one of the most iconic yoga poses today, and that is Warrior One. You're going to have a great time with it. I know I'm going to. And today you're also going to want to make sure that you have a towel, something like that for today's practice. Also a belt, whether that's a yoga strap or a belt that you would wear for your clothing. And if you've got them, 1 to 2 yoga blocks will be very helpful today. If you don't, a couple of couch pillows or even pillows for your bed. Just don't tell your wife that you're sweating on your pillows and you'll be in business. Once you get back, you're going to meet me flat on your belly, where we'll start for our first posture here. We're going to lay down flat on your stomach, making our way into what's called a tadpole in the yoga language. Pointing those toes straight back, pressing into the tops of those feet from the big toe, especially that big toenail, all the way down to the pinky toe. And just laying that head on the back of your hands. Really gently pressing into that pinky toenail. You might feel the back of your hips opening up. It brings us to neutral through the hips. And if you gently press down into the tops of those feet, you'll even feel a little bit of activation through the muscles in the thighs. We want a nice gentle press. And we'll use the strength of the arms to just pull that ribcage up away from the hips before we lay that chest back down into the mat, the head and the back of the hands. And while we're here, you ever heard a metal singer that or a cat vomiting that we're going to make that same sound, and that is going to help you zip those front ribs in. Try it 1 to 2 times. Feel the front lower ribs getting zipped in towards your spine. Brings us to neutral through the rib cage, almost like you're laying down on your heart. And just relax in your mouth. And starting to take some big, long and deep breaths through the nose. Really drawing out that exhale. Feeling the body heavy into the mat. And those inhales, feeling that belly expanding, almost like that belly is pressing you away from the floor. Exhaling to relax yourself, heavy into the mat. And now starting to pull that breath from that expanded belly up into the back of the rib cage if you can, without straining your neck and shoulders. Drawing out that exhale, feeling the rib cage relax, the belly relax. It's almost like on the inhale, that rib cage could expand to touch the ceiling or even the sky. And just feeling the whole body relax on those exhales. This centering portion helps us become here, now, present. We're just feeling our alignment, our breath. And starting to change our state by exerting a little bit of calm control over that breath. And then breathing from that belly, through the ribs, like you could breathe to the top of the head, which might feel silly. Try to keep the neck and shoulders relaxed. And as you exhale, just seeing if you can reverse that breath through the ribs, down to the belly, like you could breathe out to the bottoms of your feet. And 3 more breaths fully in. On that exhale, try to keep the rib cage expanded as you try to zip that belly button in, like you could pull your belly away from the mat. Hold it for a second, and then relax. Big in breath. 3-part breath all the way up. Exhale, try to keep that rib cage big, that belly zips in, like you could pull it away from the mat. It's called Uddiyana, or flying up. Relaxing. Actually trains your transverse abdominis, your deepest layer of abdominal muscles, to keep those organs right where they're supposed to be. 1 more of these. Big inhale. Exhale, zip that belly in. Try to keep that rib cage big. And relax. Sliding those hands back underneath the shoulders. We're getting set up for a little push-up position here. And then sitting that butt back towards the heels. Do a little child's pose. You can bring those big toes together today. Making sure that there's nothing bunched up in the skin of the knees, the shins. Reach back and undo that. Gently stretching that mat apart between those knees and metal singer, cat vomit. Zip with those front ribs as you lay that belly down over the thighs. And while we're here, we're going to get a little bit of alignment through some gentle muscular activation. Gently stretch that mat apart between the knees like you're pressing out. Feel those hips working as you creep those fingertips out overhead, getting a little bit of length through the shoulders. Pressing down to the balls, with the fingers, the heel of the palms are light. Like there's a little egg under there. We don't want to smush that egg. And imagine with the grounded palms, like we could just lift the elbows a little higher, getting a little doming in those shoulders. That gets us some depth in that shoulder joint. And pressing down into that pointer finger under knuckle, especially as we gently resist the elbows out, imagining pressing your elbows together, pressing out into my hands. Feeling that stability underneath the underarms. 3 big breaths, filling up the back of the ribs again. Relaxing down into it. Relax through your mouth. Soft through the throat. Remember this arm position because we're going to need it when we get up to your feet to lift your arms up overhead. Now we'll use the strength of the arms as you inhale to pull yourself forward, and exhale lowering down to your belly. Pointing those toes straight back, just like our tadpole, pressing down through the tops of the feet, pressing into that big toenail and the pinky toenail. Feel how that spins the heels away from each other, opening up your hips, your back. Using the strength of the arms to pull that rib cage up away from the hips for a second, and then try to zip those round ribs in. Ground into those palms from the pointer finger to the pinky finger. Don't smush the egg underneath the heel of your palm. And as we inhale, just rolling those shoulders back, peeling that chest open, starting to peel that heart up off the mat a little bit. Imagine I'm pressing the elbows together, press out into my hands like you could slide your shoulder blades to the sides of your rib cage. 3 big breaths here, and this little baby cobra is pulling that ribs up away from the hips. As you exhale, relaxing down to the mat. Just taking a few breaths on your belly. We're going to dig those toes under, stretch them back into the heels. Feel a little stretch through the calves. The knees are lifted. Feel the thighs working. And try to straighten through the knees without locking them. Stretch that mat apart between the feet. Imagine I'm pressing your knees together. Press out into my hands. That's breaking the knee belt. And press down as hard as you can with those hands without floating up off the mat. Stretch the chest open. Slide the shoulder blades away just like our cobra. Gaze lifted just a little bit, looking to the front of the mat. Just 3 breaths in this push-up prep. Pulling that ribcage up away from the hips, like you're pulling them up away from the heels. And exhale to relax down. Sitting that butt back towards the heels, back into that child's pose again. Oh, releasing the wrists. Zipping that belly in, stretching that mat apart between the knees. Getting that length through the arms, creeping the fingertips away. Grounding through the palms without smushing the egg. Getting the depth in those shoulders, little gentle doming in the arms. Imagine I'm pressing the elbows together, press out into my hands, breaking the elbow belt. On our next in-breath, we'll use the strength of those arms to pull yourself up to hands and knees. To tabletop. Bring those wrists close to underneath the shoulders, knees are underneath the hips. You can dig the toes under or point them straight back, that's up to you. We're going to go into a pretty well-known series here called cat and cow. We're going to gently stretch the mat apart between the knees, feel those hips working. Trying to lift that tailbone up like you would point your tailbone towards the sky. Rolling those shoulders back, kind of like our cobra, lifting that heart up, gazing straight ahead. Notice that big back arch that I've got here. Stretching into that belly. And we'll exhale, rounding, tucking the hips under, zipping that belly button up, tucking the chin down to the collarbones, pressing that floor away with those arms into our cat. We'll inhale back into our cow, tailbone lifts, heart shines, stretching out that belly. And exhaling into our cat. Zip that belly button up. Feel free to take any wiggles here that feel right for you. Inhaling into our cow. One more time. And exhaling into our cat. Zipping that belly button up. We'll meet in the halfway point between those two. That tailbone is untucked. Gently stretching that mat apart. Gaze lifted slightly and rib cage zipped in. Grounded through the palms without smushing the egg. And while we're here, imagine you can press down through your pointer finger while spinning those elbows to point them almost straight back. Breaking that elbow belt again, feel all that stability now through the shoulders. And then grounding into that left hand, we're going to inhale, reach that right arm for the sky, little baby open arm twist. Look, whatever direction your heart is pointing, instead of up towards that hand, we don't want to kink our neck here. And then as we exhale, we're going to thread the needle. So we're just reaching through this gap with that right arm. Maybe you can press that right shoulder, the back of that right hand to the floor. We're going to take 3 big breaths here. On the inhale, we're going to activate by pressing down with that right arm, like you're trying to twist yourself a little bit deeper. And when you exhale, relaxing into that stretch. You can wiggle around a little bit in it. See if you can reach that right arm through a little bit more. Big inhale, press down. Deep in that stretch. Big exhale. Relaxing. One more time. Big inhale, pressing down. And big exhale. Stretching into it. And now we're going to link our breath and our movement as we inhale. Reaching that right arm back for the sky, that open arm twist. And exhale to thread the needle again. 2 more of these. Inhaling up and out. And exhaling to thread. One more time. Inhaling up and out. Exhaling to thread the needle. Inhale up and out, planting that right hand. Get ready for the same journey on the opposite side. Again, gently stretching that mat apart between those knees. Feel that strength in the hips. Ground into that right palm. Don't smush the egg as we inhale, reaching that left arm for the sky. Big open arm twist here. Gaze follows your heart. You don't have to look up towards the hand yet. And then we'll exhale to thread the needle, reaching through that gap. Maybe you can put that left shoulder down, back of that left hand. Taking a big in breath. Pressing down with that left arm like we could deepen that twist. And exhaling to relax, wiggling into it. Maybe you can reach a little bit further through. Big inhale, pressing down. Big exhale. Stretching into it. One more time. Big in breath, pressing down. Big out breath. Grounding into that right palm, inhaling up and out. Open arm twist, reaching that left arm for the sky. Stretch that mat apart between those knees again. Stabilize the hips. And we'll exhale to thread through. Inhaling up and out. Open arm twist. Exhale to thread. One more time. And from here, inhaling back to tabletop. Plant that left hand. We're going to dig the toes under for a second. Floating those knees up. And then we're going to spin it around, making your way down to your butt. Grab that towel that I asked you to grab earlier. And that yoga strap. I want to make sure we have those two next to you on your left hand side with that little towel, the right hand side with that strap. You can even take that strap now and hook it underneath the ball of your right foot. Keep one hand on that. And we're going to lay down flat on your back here. Now in this position, we're going to take that little wedge, that little towel. It doesn't have to be rolled too much. I mean, you'll find out how much you'll need in just a second here. We're going to slide it underneath that left hamstring, that space between your left butt cheek and the back of your left knee. We're going to press that left leg down into the mat. So if you can touch through your heel and that hamstring without locking your left knee, you're good. Now, if you can't press down all the way, then you're going to roll that little wedge up a little bit more so you can get contact. We're going to make sure you can keep pressed down that whole time. And with the toes, we're going to make sure the toes are pointing straight up. Lifted like you're going to touch your shins with them, not pointing down. And notice as your feet on a weird angle, are the inner edges of your feet higher than the outer edges, or can you flatten them like they'd be flat on the floor? From here, hands to that strap or right hand to that strap. Press that left leg down. As we inhale, using the strength of that right hip, lift that right leg up nice and high, only as far as you can lift it without that left leg coming up. That's what that wedge is for. While we're here, fingertips to that strap. Don't force anything. We're using the activation of the muscles. Keep that left knee, left toes pointing straight up. You can spin that right leg out just a little bit, like you can point that right knee across your right shoulder. Big inhale, open the scissors, lifting that right leg higher without that left leg lifting. As you exhale, fingertips to that strap. Support that right leg, keep that left leg down. Maybe you can pull yourself a little bit higher. The condition is, as you inhale and let go with the hands, that you can hold that position with that right leg, trying to lift it higher without that left leg lifting, without overextending your left knee and feeling pain in there. And exhale to hold that strap. Maybe you can deepen that stretch. One more time. And on this next out breath, letting go of that strap, lowering that right leg down to the mat under full control of that right leg. See if you can touch the floor with your right heel, back of your right leg all at the same time before we relax. And in your unique way, pass that strap over to that left foot and slide that wedge underneath that right hamstring. Making sure that right heel can stay down, that right hamstring is grounded. That means it's touching the ground on that wedge without overextending that right knee, without any pain in that joint. Both feet, all 10 toes pointing straight up, both knees. Straps on that left side, and as we inhale, ground that right leg as we lift that left leg up nice and high, opening the scissors here. And as we exhale, we can fingertip that strap, just giving yourself a little bit of support. Pressing down through that right leg, knee, toes pointing straight up. That left leg is spun out slightly, like you just point that left knee, left toes across your left shoulder. Big inhale, trying to use the strength of that left leg to lift it higher, keeping that right leg grounded. Big exhales, using that little bit of help from the arms to deepen that stretch. Hand to big toe. It's really important because it gives us depth through the hip joint. The head of that leg bone, deep in that hip, will help everything else we do today. Big inhales. And exhales. Keep that right leg grounded. One more. And on your next out breath, without the hands, gently lowering that left leg down to the mat. Seeing if you can touch through that left heel, the back of that left leg, all at the same time. Relax those legs for a second. I know that they're feeling worked. Setting that wedge off to the side, that yoga strap. Well, plant those feet, pressing down with those elbows to make your way up to your hands here. And then we'll just flip on over, making our way back to that tabletop. And from our tabletop, digging the toes under, taking a long tabletop this time. So that means you're going to take your hands one handprint forward, stretching that mat apart between the feet and the knees. That tailbone's untucked, that ribcage zipped, grounded through the palms like we've practiced. As we inhale, float those knees up off the mat. We call this beast pose. And as we exhale, lift those hips up and back into a bent knee, downward facing dog. It's like you're making the shape of an A. Keep those knees bent so we can keep that tailbone nice and high. Child's pose arms. That means we're grounded through the balls of the fingers. Arm bones lifted, breaking that elbow belt. And belly zipped in. Maybe you can even try to lift those 10 toes up while grounded through the balls of your feet here. Just taking 3 big breaths. Relax through the mouth and try to keep this long spine, this neutral spine. As you start tiptoeing your feet towards the front of the mat, towards your hands, making your way up onto your feet. And this is where it might be nice to have some little blocks, pillows, or even a chair out in front of you to put your fingertips on, so we can keep that neutral spine. No rounding here. Trying to point all 10 toes straight ahead. And maybe you try to lift those toes up, feeling that weight shift back onto the balls of your feet. Pressing down to the big toe and then the pinky toe. Keeping that weight shifted back as we stretch that mat apart between the heels. Feel those hips. And imagine I'm pressing your knees together. Press out into my hands, breaking that knee belt. Hello, hips. And just like our cow pose, that tailbone's lifted. We're pulling that rib cage up away from the hips. And then we're going to zip those front ribs in. 3 big breaths here. This is our half forward fold. And maybe you decide to reach those arms behind you, palms facing down, without that weight shifting any direction. There's a lot of strength to hold this. As we inhale, keep this alignment, this work through the hips as we lift to stand. And exhale, releasing those arms to the sides. This is our mountain pose, our Tadasana. See if you can lift those toes up again, shifting that weight back. The balls of the feet, the heels, setting the big toes and the pinky toes down. And the knees gently unlocked as we stretch that mat apart between the heels. Feel those hips working, opening up that space in your back. And imagining I'm pressing the knees in towards each other. You don't like that, so you're going to press out into my hands. Hello, hips. Imagine there's a little coat hanger at the bottom of your shoulder blades. As you inhale, you can lift that rib cage up high. I like to bring my hands to my front ribs here. And as we exhale again, zip those front ribs in. Lift that gaze up like we're looking up over the horizon. And bring those arms back down to the sides. Turn those palms forward. Stretch your chest open. Big inhales and exhales. And keep that chest open as you turn those palms back to face your body. Legs are working, rib cage is working. breath, arms. Make a little bit of space underneath your underarms so your armpits can breathe. Imagine I'm pressing your elbows together behind your back. Press out into my hands. Feel like you could slide the shoulder blades away from each other. 3 big breaths here. This is Tadasana, the mountain pose. The model for all your standing positions. Can you do this waiting in line? Create space in between your spinal vertebrae. Send those palms out to the sides. Keep this tallness as we inhale those arms all the way up overhead. And exhale, zip that rib cage back in. Legs are still active. Screw those arms in like you could point the thumbs straight back. And if this feels real tight, bring your arms wider. Just like those child's pose arms, trying to lift those arms back. Imagine I'm pressing the elbows together. Press out into my hands. 3 big breaths in this upward hands position known as Urdhva Hastasana. Maybe you can even zip that belly in like we practiced. Big inhale. And as we exhale, returning to that half forward fold, sending those hips back. Those arms can come behind or down to the blocks. Try to keep that tailbone up, that spine long, those legs active. Big in-breath here. As we exhale, bend into those knees, plant those hands, step it back to your downward facing dog. And once you're there, stretching that mat, tailbone high, belly zipped, child's pose arms. We'll inhale, shifting that weight forward, shoulders towards the fingertips to a nice little plank here. Stretching that mat apart between the feet, pressing the floor away with those hands. Zip that belly in, gaze towards the front of the mat. It's just like Tadasana, just a different orientation to gravity. And after all 3 breaths, either from the toes or the knees, we're going to lower through a push-up. Whole body touches at once. Remember this position from our warm-up. Pointing those toes back, pressing into the tops of the feet, and inhaling up into your baby cobra again. Shining that heart, pulling that ribcage up away from the hips. Exhaling right back down. Dig those toes under, and either from the toes or the knees, taking a nice little push-up. And exhaling up and back to that downward facing dog. Just 3 breaths here. We're going to take a big inhale. And as we exhale, step that right foot forward to the inside edge of your right hand. Toes towards the fingertips. It might not be that graceful, and that's okay. We're going to set that left knee down. This is where you might want some blocks or pillows. Bring those hands to. Point the left toes straight back, just like our tadpole, just like our cobra. Pressing into the big toe, the pinky toe. You can even peek back. What's your heel doing? Is it pointing straight up, or is it pushing out to the side? Can we pull it in, using the muscles in the legs, the hips to point that heel straight up? If you press down, you might even feel that glute working. If you want a little bonus points, press that left knee up away from the floor. Feel that depth in the hip, just like we did in hand to big toe on our back. Set that left knee down. Bring that awareness to that front foot. And you press down through that right big toe, that pinky toe. Our containment is to keep that inner edge down. As we press that right thigh into that right arm, feel that right hip working now. Lunging as deep into this right knee as you can get without that right heel coming up. You might have to drag that left leg forward. And taking that little cobra position to that torso so we're not slouching. 3 big breaths here. Nice low lunge. Feel all that activation. We're going to need this when we get up into Warrior 1 later. Planting those hands. Dig the left toes under. Inhale that left knee up. Exhale, step it back. Downward facing dog. Taking 3 breaths here. Feel that depth in that left hip. Taking a big in-breath. And as we exhale, sweep that left foot through for a nice low lunge on the left side. Setting that right knee down, pointing the right toes straight back. Pressing into the top of that right foot from big toe to pinky toe. And peek back, look at that heel. What's it doing? Do I have to resist it in or out to get it pointing straight up? Do it. The bonus points, pressing to the top of that right foot, press that right knee up off of the floor. Feel that right glute working. that depth in that right hip before we set that right knee back down. Awareness to that left foot. Press down through the inner edge of that left foot. So press that left thigh out. Feel that glute. Cobra through that torso. Lunging as deep as we can into that left knee without that heel coming up. You might drag that right leg with. Big inhales. Big exhales. Relaxed mouth. Feel that butt working on both sides. You can come up to your fingertips here. Or you can plant those hands on the blocks and pillows. If you're more flexible than me, those palms on the floor. Planting those hands. Taking the right toes under. Inhale, that right knee lifts. And exhale, stepping it back to that downward facing dog. Taking 3 big breaths here. Stretch the mat, tailbone high. Ribcage zipped. Child's pose arms. As we inhale, making our way back to the front of the mat into our half forward fold. Hands can come to shins, blocks, chair, pillows. Stretching that mat apart, tailbone untucked. Long through that rib cage and ribs zipped in. Reaching those arms back, 3 big breaths. Inhaling to stand, going straight into upward hands, reaching those arms all the way up. And exhale to zip that rib cage in. Child's pose arms, those arms are lifted back, screwed in, breaking that elbow belt. Just 3 breaths. Gaze can lift. Big inhale. And this time as we exhale, bend into the knees, send that butt back into a little chair like you're sitting in a really tall stool. Stretch that mat apart between those heels. Break that knee belt. Child's pose arms. Lunging deep into those knees. Just like we just practiced in that lunge without the heels coming up. 1 more breath. And as we exhale, hinge at those hips, plant those hands. Step it back to your plank, known as Palakasana in the yoga language. Take a breath. And as we exhale, lower down to that mat. Pointing those toes back. And take that little cobra as we inhale. Exhaling to release. Dig those toes under. Inhale through that push-up. Exhaling up and back. Downward facing dog. 3 big breaths here. Now for fun, we're going to inhale, reach that right leg up towards the sky behind you. 3-legged dog. Taking 3 breaths here. Keep that alignment. Right and left side obliques open. If you're crunching to one side, try to find space there. After that 3rd breath, sweeping that right foot through for that low lunge. This time, keep that left knee up. Your lunge may look way different than mine. That's perfect. You may decide to bring your hands to those blocks here. Stretching back into that left heel. Find that left glute, just like we did when we pressed the knee away from the floor a moment ago. Round through right big toe, pinky toe. Pressing that right thigh out. Right knee follows the toes. Cobra torso. And inhale, arms and torso lift. This is your crescent lunge. Child's pose arms. Zip that rib cage in. Lunging nice and deep. There's 3 breaths. I think this is the strongest posture on the legs in all of yoga. At least in my world. As we exhale, hinge over that right thigh. Plant those hands. Stepping it back to that downward facing dog. Taking 3 big breaths here. Inhale that left leg up towards the sky behind you. Stretch back into that left heel. Keep equal space. Left and right side obliques. It's just like hand to big toe when we were laying on our back. It's a different orientation of gravity as we exhale, sweeping through into that low lunge. Keep that right knee up. Maybe you want your blocks here, maybe you don't. Stretching back into that right heel. Find that right side of your butt. Containment in that left foot, that inner edge of that left foot. As we press that left thigh out. Left knee follows the toes. Cobra torso. Inhale, arms and torso lift. Exhale, zipping that rib cage in. Child's pose arms, 3 big breaths in this crescent lunge. Feel that burn. Told you it was hardcore. Exhale to hand, plant those hands, stepping it back to downward facing dog. Now at any point, you can take a little child's pose, a little breather. You might not need it though. Just 3 breaths here. We're going to inhale, tiptoeing forward, making our way back into our half. Forward fold, back up to your feet. On the hip activation. Arms reaching. And those hands can even be on your shins. There's 3 breaths. Inhale, use those hips to lift you to stand. Reach those arms all the way up. Exhale, zip that ribcage in. Upward hands. Urdhva Hastasana. Child's pose arms. Big in-breath. Exhale, sit into that imaginary stool again. Stretch the mat apart between the heels. Break the knee bout, lunge deep. Child's pose arms. As we exhale, hinge at those hips, plant the hands. Step it back to that plank. This is called a vinyasa, a flow. As we lower through that push-up. Put those toes back. Inhaling baby cobra. And exhale to release. Digging those toes under. Inhale through that push-up. Exhale, meeting me back. Downward facing dog. 3 big breaths. Inhale, that right leg lifts to the sky. And exhale to sweep through into that nice crescent lunge again. Finding that left leg roundness, that extension, that containment through that right leg, that strength in that right hip as we inhale, arms and torso lift. Crescent lunge, 3 breaths. And on our next exhale, planting those hands back to the mat. We're not going anywhere yet. What we're going to do here is we're going to walk that right foot towards the center of the mat, lining up that right big toe with the center of the mat. Then, we're going to step that left foot forward just a little bit. So as we lift that torso back up into a lunge, straighten into that right leg, ground that left heel. If you can't get that left heel down, step that left foot forward a little bit more. Once you're there, you're going to spin that left foot out just a little bit, like you're pointing it towards the front left corner of that mat. Ground through right big toe and pinky toe. If you got a fly on you, tell them to get off. Trying to point those hips straight ahead while grounding through the outer edge of that left foot. Inhale those arms up. And exhale, lunging deep into this right knee. It'll probably come to your right ankle. Zip that rib cage in. Arms are lifted. This is the warrior 1. 3 big breaths. Pressing the left foot back. Feel that left glute. The right knee follows the right toes. Big inhale. Big exhale. We'll inhale, roll back to the ball, that left foot like a big lunge. And as we exhale, hinge forward at the hips, plant those hands, step it back. Downward facing dog. Taking 3 big breaths here. We're going to get into this next warrior 1 a little bit differently. I actually think you'll find it easier. We'll inhale, reaching that left leg for the sky. Then exhale, sweeping through into that lunge on the left side. Get those legs set up. Inhaling, arms and torso lift, crescent lunge. 3 big breaths here. Zip that rib cage in. Gaze lifted, child's pose arms. Now we're going to inhale, stepping that right foot forward so we can ground that right heel just like we practiced in that warrior 1 on the other side. Spin that right foot out just a tiny bit, like we can point it towards the front right corner of the mat. Ground through the outer edge of that right foot. Trying to point those hips straight. They won't get there, that's okay. Just a little bit of effort there. Left knee follows the left toes. Inhale, arms lift. Exhale, lunging deep. Zip that rib cage in. That left knee will probably be around that left ankle. 3 big breaths here. Warrior 1. Press back with that right foot. Find that right glute. Lunging with that left leg. Keep that containment. On our next in-breath, we'll roll to the ball, that right foot. Whoa, don't lose your balance. Back to that crescent lunge. And exhale to hinge. Plant those hands. Step it back. Downward facing dog. Taking 3 big breaths here. We're going to take that 2 more times as we inhale, tiptoeing to the front of the mat. Making your way into your half forward fold. Fingertips to the shins or behind. You pick. 3 breaths. Inhaling to stand, reach those arms all the way up. And exhale, zip that rib cage in. 3 breaths. Big in breath. Exhale, sitting into that chair. Utkatasana, known as fierce pose. On your next exhale, plant those hands to the mat, step it back into that plank. And as our next out breath, we're going to lower down to the mat. Putting those toes back, inhale into that cobra. And exhale to release. Digging those toes under, inhale through that push-up. Exhale, meeting me back, downward facing dog, taking 3 breaths there. When you inhale, that right leg to the sky, and exhale, sweeping it through for that low lunge position. But we're actually going to walk that foot backwards a little bit, like we can get the toes aligned with the heel of the palm instead of the fingertips. Because we're going to inhale, arms and torso lift, and exhale, ground that left heel, the outer edge of that left foot into our warrior 1. Arms lifted, left knee unlocked, trying to point that left hip straight ahead without any force. Right knees towards that right ankle. And as we exhale, hinging at the hips, plant those hands, roll to the ball of that left foot. Step it back, downward facing dog. Taking 3 breaths. We'll inhale that left leg for the sky. And exhale, sweeping through into our left side lunge. This time, toes in line, the heels of the palms instead of the fingertips. It's a shorter position here. Find the right glute, lunge into that left knee. Inhale, arms and torso lift. Reaching for the sky. Exhale, ground that right heel and the outer edge of that right foot. Work with that right hip, trying to point that right hip ahead. Containment through that left foot. Left knee follows the toes. Arms are lifted. 3 breaths in this warrior 1. Get that right knee unlocked. Gently. As we exhale, hinging over that left thigh, plant those hands, step it back. Downward facing dog. I'm going to give you very little cueing on this set. See what you remember. As we inhale, walking or hopping to the front of the mat into our half forward fold. Long through that spine. 3 breaths. Inhaling to stand, reaching those arms overhead. Upward hand position. Belly zipped. Relaxed mouth. Big inhale. Exhale, sitting back into that imaginary chair. Fierce pose. On our next exhale, hinging over, planting those hands, stepping it back to that plank. And taking your vinyasa flow lower through that push-up. Inhale into your cobra. Exhale to release. Inhale, push-up, meeting me back. Downward facing dog. 3 breaths. Inhale, that right leg lifts. Exhale, sweeping that right foot through for that warrior one setup. Inhale, arms and torso lift. Exhale, ground that left heel. Lining those hips. 3 big breaths. Child's pose arms. Belly zipped. Big inhale. As we exhale, hinge over those hips. Plant those hands. Step it back down to facing dog. 3 big breaths. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, sweeping through into our left side. Warrior one setup. Find those legs. Inhale, arms and torso lift. Exhale, grounding that right heel. Activating to align those hips. 3 breaths in this warrior one. Reaching for the sky. Belly zipped, relaxed mouth. Big inhale. As we exhale, hinging forward at those hips, plant those hands, step it back to downward facing dog. Taking 3 big breaths here. We're going to do a little bit of core in a second. So enjoy this little break. Child's pose if you want it. When you're ready, shifting that weight forward into a nice little plank. Try to stretch the shoulders forwards of the fingertips, stretching into those wrists. Heels of the palms light, don't smush that egg. Ground into that pointer finger, that pinky finger. Active legs, just like we've practiced. Belly button zipped. Lift that gaze up. Relax your mouth. Breathe. Notice where your mind is going. Your butt working. If not, can you find it? Stretch that mat apart. And when you're ready, release those knees to the mat. Sit it back for a nice little child's pose. Getting ready for a little stretchy. You can relax into those arms, into those hips a little bit, coming towards more of a relaxed child's pose. As my teacher would have told me, there's no relaxing in yoga, only in Shavasana. So you got a little bit of attention here to where your body is in space. We're about to take a little pigeon variation here. When you're ready, we're going to make your way onto your butt in your own unique way. And then laying all the way down to your back. Soles of the feet planted, knees are bent. Wiggle those hips a little bit. And then wiggle that rib cage up away from those hips and zip those front ribs in. Setting that head down. As we inhale, we're going to straighten that right leg, reaching up towards the sky. As we exhale, cross that right ankle over that left thigh. Nice little shape of a 4 here. Nothing super crazy. I'm just going to breathe into this position. Little reclined pigeon. Drawing out those breaths again. Relaxed, long and deep breaths. Even sending those arms out to the sides. Ground it to the inner edge of that left foot, especially that left big toe. Gently pressing that right ankle into that left thigh. you want a little bit more here, we can take those hands reaching towards that left thigh, lifting that left foot up. We can even take those palms around the back side of that left leg, pull ourselves deeper into this stretch, trying to keep that back neutral, so ensuring it's not slouching or rounding. Pressing that right ankle gently into the top of that left thigh. You could even take those hands for that left shin if that feels right for you. Some big inhales and exhales. Relaxing through the face. Starting to allow that breath to breathe you. And in control of that breath. Maybe you notice that your body can give you a little bit more range of motion, deepening into that posture, that stretch a little bit. And when you're ready, releasing that left foot down to the ground if it's lifted. Uncrossing that right leg, reaching that right foot up for the sky. And exhale, set that right foot back down. We'll wiggle into these hips left and right. Windshield wipers, letting those knees fall over the left. Inhaling back to center, let them fall over the right. And then coming back to the center. Doing the same thing on the left side. We'll inhale that left leg up towards the sky. And we'll exhale, crossing that left ankle over that right thigh. Settling into this little shape of a forward, this reclined pigeon. Letting that breath breathe you. Maybe you want to take one of those progressions, reaching those hands for that right thigh, lifting that right foot up. Maybe even the palms can come to the back of that right leg. Or maybe even take them around to that right shin. Get some back farts as you do that. And that breath and the posture take you wherever you need to go. Relaxing through your face, your jaw, your neck, your shoulders. When you're ready, relax and that right foot back down to the mat if it's lifted. Uncross and that left leg reaching for the sky. And exhale to set that left foot down. Take another windshield wiper in the hips, right and left. I'm going to take one more posture today. Inhale that right leg back up. And exhale, crossing that right ankle over that left thigh again. Reaching those arms out to a T, rounding through that right shoulder. That left hand could come for that right ankle if you feel like you have that flexibility. And as we exhale, releasing those legs over to the left hand side. Maybe the sole of that right foot comes down to the mat into our reclined pigeon with a little twist. Opening up the right hip, the right side body. Imagining that you could just feel that breath on the right side of the ribs. If you got any mosquitoes on you like I do, try not to swat them. Maybe just try to scare them away. And then come back to your breath. If you want to progress this one, you can always take that left hand a little bit further towards the left knee, through that little triangle towards the left thigh. You don't have to. Keeping that right shoulder grounded. When you're ready, using the strength of that torso as you inhale to unwind back to center, uncrossing that right leg, setting the sole of that right foot down, and take one little windshield wiper on each side. Notice how that feels now. Coming back to center, send those arms out to a T. Inhale that left leg reaching for the sky. Exhale, crossing that left ankle over that right thigh. That right hand can come to that left ankle as we ground that left shoulder, taking a big in breath. And exhale, letting those legs fall over the right hand side into our reclined pigeon twist. Maybe the sole of that left foot comes down. Really focusing on breathing into the left side of the rib cage here. Now you can always take that progression, reaching a bit further through with that right hand, towards the right knee, with the right thigh. Just letting that breath take you wherever you need to go. And when you're ready, using that inhale to unwind yourself back to center. Uncrossing that left leg, reaching for the sky. Setting the sole of that left foot down. Taking a little windshield wiper, or 3. Feeling how those hips feel. Send those legs out long. Reach those arms out overhead. Take a big inhale and stretch from the fingers to the toes. And exhale, giving yourself a big hug. Pulling those knees in towards the chest. Feel like it roll side to side on the back here. And when you're ready, send those legs out long beneath you. Let those arms relax out to the sides. We relax into our final posture of the day, Shavasana, the corpse pose. Taking a little nap here. Invite you to close your eyes. Imagine you relax through your forehead and your jaw. Through the tiny muscles around your ears. Feeling those ear canals relaxing, deepening towards the back of the mouth. Feeling that softness flowing into the teeth, tongue. The roof of the mouth expanding, relaxing towards the top of the head. And the breath flowing the deepest areas of the throat. So deep it's almost flowing through your heart. The whole body is heavy, warm, and relaxed. The heart is free and easy, like it's floating up above your chest. And the gravity is pulling you down just a little bit heavier. The body continues to melt and sink into the mat. And when you're ready, inhale to reach those arms out overhead again, taking that big stretch from fingers to toes. And exhale to curl those knees into the chest, giving yourself that big hug. Rolling on that back. See if you can keep these knees hugged in as we roll onto the right hand side. Listen that head, an outstretched right arm. Take a little fetal position here. Taking 3 big breaths into the left side of the ribs. You're using the strength of the arms to make your way up to a seated position. Any seated position that suits you. We close today's holistic strength yoga practice. You can use those hands to untuck the flesh of the butt. Chest is open, the back body open like we practiced. The gaze lifted. Inhale and reaching those arms all the way up overhead. And exhale, bring those palms together into heart center. As we say in yoga, I see myself in you, I see you in myself. Namaste. Thank you so much for being here and carrying this energy with you, this activation, this alignment, this strength throughout your entire day today. This is the type of thing that we do in men's yoga transformation, taking 12 weeks to bring you from stiff, rigid, and body, mind, and spirit to activated, aligned, strong, flexible, mobile, stable, durable, free in body, mind, and spirit in just 12 weeks. We spend 4 whole weeks on mobility, stretchy, 4 whole weeks on activation and alignment, 4 whole weeks on releasing your flow. And if you enjoyed this, drop it in the comments. Let me know how you feel after doing this practice. And if you need help with anything, if you're like, hey, I'd like to make something harder, I'd like to make something easier, let me know. Please share this with your friends and family. And if you're like, hey, men's yoga transformation, 12 weeks of a yoga immersion to eradicate my stress, to renew my body, to tame my monkey mind, that sounds pretty cool. If you're feeling like that, drop it in the comments or shoot me a direct message and I will send a super special message right back to you. You have an amazing day. Thank you for being here. Bye.